Welcome back. Continuing the trip down memory lane with WrestleMania 4. And I've seen people saying, you didn't talk about this, you didn't talk about this. Yesterday's video was 18 minutes. That's enough time to talk about WrestleMania 3. And I don't know how long this video is going to go, but there were 16 matches for WrestleMania 4. So much potential with the tournament. I think they learned their lessons with the tournament coming out of this. Eventually, we get King of the Ring from WWF, which was fantastic at times. Sometimes it wasn't so great, but sometimes it was really, really good. And WrestleMania 4 was an example of how tournaments you gotta be careful. 16 guys technically should have been in it, but it ends up being 14. You don't end up getting every single tournament match, but you still get 16 matches in one event, and it's a lot. It's a lot, but a lot of short matches and not memorable matches is the other problem. Is that a lot of these matches just kind of blend together. One of the reasons I don't go back and watch these events and get into all the minutia of it is because I think one of the things as a wrestling fan that's important when you're looking back on old events is what stands out for you. WrestleMania 13, what stands out for people is Stone Cold and Bret Hart and the double switch. And so those are the memories that stick. And that's what I'm doing by going through these. I don't want them to be situations where I have to go back, watch all of these events and getting to all the minutia, because then it takes kind of some of the casual fun out of it. So we had a battle royal to start off the event, but we also had a tournament in this event. And I want to explain that first. So Hulk Hogan had been champion. Andre the Giant beats him. I was so happy. And then Andre takes the title and sells it to Ted DiBiase. And DiBiase not recognized as a champion because WWF's like, no, you can't do that. That's almost as dumb as a finger poke of doom. So they have a tournament for the title that's vacant. So by today's standards, I would think they just restart the match. Like looking back, and with the way things are done now, I think you'd have Nick Aldis or Adam Pearce coming out and restarting the match. But either way, we start the night with a battle royal. Bad News Brown defeats everybody else. The last one that he throws out is Bret Hart. He didn't throw everybody out. Well, I like Bad News Brown. He was Bad News Allen at Stampede Wrestling out of Calgary. And I thought he was a really good wrestler. I was surprised they had him work as a heel so much in WWF because he was pretty badass as a face as well. But it never really clicked in WWF. So he was the bad guy there. And he wins the tournament. Then we get into the tournament itself, or the Battle Royal. Now we get into the tournament. Bad News Allen / Bad News Brown wins the Battle Royal. Then we get into the tournament. Ted DiBiase, in 5 minutes, defeated Jim Duggan. These guys, I believe, had fought each other in UWF. And so, not strangers to one another. Jim Duggan, I liked him much better before he got to WWF. He was actually pretty badass before he got to WWF. And then they neutered him. They do this with wrestlers. And I think, not literally, but like, the Sheep Herders were this vicious tag team, and then they go to WWF and they're bushwhackers and they're doing this with their arms, and I was like, what is this? What did they do to the Sheep Herders? What happened? They had Flag Boy, and they used to yell and scream at the fans, and now they're just, hey, and they're what are they licking everybody for? And this was way before Brad Marchand. So yeah, DiBiase defeats Duggan, who was doing the 2x4 and ho and USA and all that. Then, in 4 minutes and 53 seconds, Don Morocco wins in the first round against Dino Bravo, a match between two beefy men. And Morocco wins that. Then, in 9 minutes and 12 seconds, also a first round matchup, Greg the Hammer Valentine defeated Ricky Steamboat, which I didn't like at all. And apparently, there was some talk about making Ricky Steamboat champion, and Hulk Hogan said that's a bad idea. I personally think that if they had made Ricky Steamboat WWF champion, he would have been so over the top popular. Steamboat was my favorite wrestler for a long time. Him, Roddy Piper as well. And I really think if they'd given him the title at some point, he would have been just incredibly popular with the fans and just in general. Amazing wrestler. Like when he came out of, he wasn't even really technically retired, I don't think, but when he had that program with Chris Jericho, and then they started giving him matches, and they're like, oh wow, he can still wrestle. Of course he can. He was one of the most naturally gifted athletes I saw in a professional wrestling ring in the 80s. And then he left WWF and had amazing battles with Ric Flair. And if you haven't seen those, I would say look them up on YouTube. I'm sure they're out there. Then in 5 minutes and 7 seconds, Randy Savage defeated Butch Reed. Forgettable match mostly, really honestly. Yeah. Believe he was the natural Butch Reed at that point. And then in 2 minutes and 56 seconds, One Man Gang defeated Bam Bam Bigelow by countout. So you get One Man Gang and Bam Bam Bigelow, two of the best big men of their era, and you give them less than 3 minutes. So, yeah. It's not a great decision, but obviously you have to get through this tournament. You need these matches to be quick. You have 16 matches on this card. And so, yeah, One Man Gang, 2 minutes and 56 seconds. So that happened. And then Jake Roberts and Rick Rude. So Jake the Snake and Ravishing Rick Rude go the full 15 minutes in a time limit draw so that neither of them move on and you have less matches the rest of the way. That's what that was for. They had to give wrestlers buys. They had to make sure that we weren't going to be seeing, so many matches. So sadly, Jake the Snake and Ravishing Rick Rude don't move on. There were some interesting booking decisions in this event. Just going to say, there were some interesting booking decisions because Rick Rude was a fantastic wrestler too. Him not getting past the first round, just bewildering. Then in 4 minutes and 29 seconds, Ultimate Warrior defeats Hercules. There's been so much made about the Ultimate Warrior and his limited moveset. Let's see, so this was 1988, so I was like 15. As a 15-year-old watching wrestling, I love the Ultimate Warrior. I preferred his name before he went to WWF, which was Dingo Warrior. I thought that was a little more unique. But Ultimate Warrior, I thought while he wasn't a great wrestler, and I don't think anybody looking back can say that he was a great wrestler, he had a shtick, and it worked. He came out to the ring, he shook the ropes, he slammed the guy around, he kicked guys in the face, and then he won, and then he shook the ropes again, and he ran all the way to the back. It was goofy looking, sure, his hair was ridiculous, his face paint was insane, his promos made no sense, but I kind of liked the guy. And I think it was obvious pretty early on that WWF had something here and that he could be as popular as Hulk Hogan. Because in wrestling, you know that careers could be short and you want to make sure that you have other wrestlers lined up just in case, right? So, like, looking at WWF currently / WWE, John Cena being champion, you have to make sure you know who the next guy's going to be, or potentially the next guy's going to be, just in case, right? And aware too that Cena's doing the retirement tour, so he's going to hand the belt probably back to Cody, but that's a whole other argument for another time. Then in 5 minutes and 52 seconds, Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant ends in a double DQ. I seem to remember Hulk Hogan having a chair, and I remember thinking, now, why is the good guy running around with a chair hitting people? Like, to me, Hulk Hogan, and if you look back, to me, Hulk Hogan never wrestled as a good guy, and I think that's part of what irritated me, was that he just flat out break the rules when it suited him. I was like, that doesn't seem like a good guy move. What's he doing? He's just gonna... And then Pro Wrestling Illustrated did their own version of Real American. They did their own version of the lyrics. I'm gonna try to recall that now. When it comes crashing down and it hurts inside, I grab my belt and I run and hide. There's also I roll out of the ring and get disqualified. If you hurt my head, you hurt my pride. I roll out of the ring and get disqualified. I'm a fake heavyweight champion. Fight for the rights of Vince McMahon. I'm a fake heavyweight champion. Fight for what's right. Fight for my life. People remember, like, oh, Hogan, Hulkamania. There were a lot of people did not like Hulkamania. And so this match with him and Andre ending in a double DQ, I was furious. I was livid. I was like, seriously, what is even the point? It's not even 6 minutes. And I understand that Andre couldn't go as well as he could have in past years, his back, his knees, whatever else. I was infuriated. So we get to round 2, 5 minutes and 44 seconds. Ted DiBiase defeats Don Morocco. Don Morocco, The Rock Don Morocco. DiBiase was a great champion who never had the title, and Morocco putting him over. Right move there. And then in the other round 2 match, Randy Savage defeated Greg Valentine. So I guess the reason Valentine defeats Ricky Steamboat is so that Steamboat doesn't face Savage, because they were both good guys. But I still would rather have seen Steamboat and Savage go at it again and Savage get his win back. I think that would have been a great storyline. I kind of think they blew it here. I think that if you had Steamboat and Savage and you had a little bit of a back and forth, and now they're both good guys kind of look at things and how things are, I think that could have been really entertaining. But it's usually good guy, bad guy, good guy, bad guy in almost any tournament. It's part of the reason why with wrestling tournaments you can kind of book ahead and go, okay, well clearly they're going to win, so they face them. Well, they just won, so that and it makes it harder to really get into tournaments at times. And then in 6 minutes and 30 seconds, Brutus Beefcake beats Honky Tonk Man by disqualification in an Intercontinental title match because Honky Tonk was in the midst of his record run with the Intercontinental title. And Beefcake never had a singles title in WWF. He's remembered as being like Hogan's buddy, but I'm going to say this. The Barber character got over. The Barber character absolutely got over. And I do think that if they'd given Beefcake the title here, he probably would have had a pretty good run with the Intercontinental title. But Honky Tonk Man was the guy for whatever reason. I just, I mean, I'm not saying that Honky Tonk Man wasn't a good worker. Just, I don't know. I just never saw him as much of a threat. I mean, the guitar was more of a threat than he was a lot of the time. Then at 7 minutes and 30 seconds, the Islanders. So this is where Samoans show up with Bobby Heenan, tagging with Bobby Heenan. They defeat the British Bulldogs and Coco Beware. So there's Coco Beware on the board. Means he has to lose. The Islanders, Haku, of course, part of this tag team. Haku was terrifying. But yeah, it was, and then I seem to remember the British Bulldogs Bulldog because he had to give him a bulldog. It has to be a Vince McMahon thing. Like British Bulldogs, I don't think ever, and I know the Bulldog was popular. I get it, but as soon as they had a Bulldog, I was like, oh, come on, just why do you have why do you have to do? You don't have to take it literal. They don't literally have to have a Bulldog because of the British Bulldog. Now it's a comedy act, and so yeah. Seem to remember the Bulldog run around, and they would try to make it sound like the Bulldog was going to bite people. It's not going to bite people. It's just not going to bite people. It's not a thing. They're just happy little dogs. Always had his tongue sticking out. So yeah, see the things that I remember from back then, right? All right, and then we get to the semifinal. 4 minutes and 5 seconds for Randy Savage to defeat the One Man Gang. So One Man Gang has a match here that he wins in 2 minutes and 56 seconds, and then he loses this one in 4 minutes. Thanks for coming out. One Man Gang was legitimately over before he got to WWF as a really good big man, as a kind of a scary wrestler, and eventually he becomes Akeem. Oh, sorry, I'm just having flashbacks. I'm not going to have to talk about Saba Simba in this, am I? He never had a match at WrestleMania, right? He's also known as Tony Atlas. We're not going to have that discussion, are we? I hope not. So, yeah, Savage defeats One Man Gang. All of these matches were very much forgettable. And notice the match times. They're all really short. So, the ring entrances and exits take just as long as the match itself. And then we get to what is the second longest match of the night, which is 12 minutes and 33 seconds. Demolition. The knockoff of the Road Warriors. Now, Axe and Smash absolutely built themselves up over the years to get their own identity, and their entrance theme was a banger. Their entrance theme, Demolition's entrance theme, was one of my favorite entrance themes in wrestling. And they were a good heel tag team, but I never got past seeing them as a knockoff Road Warriors. I didn't. I had watched the Road Warriors in NWA, and as soon as Demolition showed up, I'm like, I've seen this. You know that whole meme with Leonardo DiCaprio from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood? Yeah. That's the meme. I've seen this one. So yeah, Demolition defeats Strike Force, Rick Martel and Tito Santana for the tag belts. I thought Martel and Santana were a fantastic tag team. And Strike Force, just a name you throw on them. But I thought Martel and Santana were great. And one thing about Rick Martel, he's remembered as the model, I think, more than his run as a face. I preferred him as a face. I thought as a sympathetic babyface, Rick Martel was fantastic. And it's easy to forget, too, that he was an AWA champion. Rick Martel was a good champion, too. So I always thought he was kind of underutilized by WWF, and then they gave him the model gimmick, and suddenly... I know he made more money. I get that he made more money, but I did feel like during this era there were certain characters that diminished what a wrestler could do with some of his promos, and some of the in-ring work, too, I think was hurt by some of the gimmicks, because you had to sell the whole gimmick, right? So then we get to the main event, and it's a 9 minute and 27-second main event. And what is remembered is that it's kind of a schmozzle. Hulk Hogan gets involved because, of course, he does. Andre the Giant gets involved because, of course, he does. Randy Savage defeats Ted DiBiase in the tournament final for the world title, and Savage gets his moment, which then features, Elizabeth and Hulk Hogan, because sure, he's in there. Why not? Uh, like, famously, Savage is facing the odds. Elizabeth leaves ringside. I seem to remember Bobby Heenan commenting about how she's run off, but she went off to get Hulk Hogan. Hogan comes out and does the point. It's one of those things that I always find funny. I've talked about this before, but how wrestlers, while they're going out to make the save, they do a dance, or they take their time, they high five, and in this case, Hogan does the point and looks around and takes his time. Just go. Just like, if my buddy's getting beat up in the ring, I'm just going to do a dead sprint. I'm not going to go to the sound guy and go, okay, start my entrance music. Let me know when the pyro goes off, and then I'll go out. And then I'll pose on the stage for a little bit, and I'll point at all the fans, and then I'll high five on my way to the ring, and then I'll go in and make the save. It's just so silly. Because during this era, if somebody came in to make the save, there was no music. Half the time they were wearing their street clothes, and it felt real is kind of a weird way of putting it, but it felt more organic. It felt more spur of the moment than what we get now in wrestling, where the guys all come out in all their gear and their music and their entrance, and it's really good they had that queued up for them. And then the guys in the ring who are, you have 5 guys beating somebody up, they just stop and look. Hey, there's somebody else coming out. No, keep beating him up. Beat him up, and then there's 5 of you, so the other guy is coming out. Good luck. So, yeah, Savage winning the belt was fantastic. He was the most over wrestler in WWF at the time. I don't think anybody was as popular as Randy, which I don't think Hogan was going to allow. And there's been a lot of talk about that over the years, that Hogan was jealous and wanted, heel Randy so he could get the belt back from him, which is where we end up. And obviously Ultimate Warrior eventually becomes that next one, but Ultimate Warrior, a little bit tough to control and unpredictable. But it was a very entertaining time in wrestling. It was not a great WrestleMania. This WrestleMania was very all over the place, and it showed that the whole idea of a tournament, it can work, but not like this. I was always disappointed that they didn't do this better. I think WWE now could do a great tournament. You could have all 8 of the first round matches on a first night, and then the other matches on a second night. The problem is then you got women's matches, tag matches, and everything else. I'm just saying, if you wanted to do a 2-night tournament, I think you could do you could have it as its own pay-per-view. A 2-night tournament. Way back when I, created my own wrestlers in my own wrestling league, once a year, I would do what I called the best wrestler in the world tournament, where I had 64 of my own created wrestlers. I would put them in brackets, and once a day, I would have, a match decided. I go, okay, today this match was in, at this house show in this city, and then this guy won. Okay, now these guys fought the next day, and I thought that was a very entertaining way of going about it. I know WWF would never, / WWE would never do anything that complicated or that would take that long, but it's kind of too bad. I would love to see a tournament where it's something like that. And my vision for it was, you win, you're the best wrestler in the world, and you get $1 million cash prize at the end for winning it. Just as a little bit extra oomph to give them for if they win, that little bit of energy. $1 million if you get that pinfall victory. In this case, it was the title. And it was good that they had that great moment at the end with Randy, because the rest of the night was just disappointing. Very disappointing. Just very, very disappointing. And this was the era where anything that involved Hulk Hogan, I didn't like it. Wasn't a fan at all. It was like, man, is anybody ever gonna just win over it? Like, he never put anybody over. He just never, not clean. Didn't put people over clean until many years later. And even then, he would resist putting certain people over. It was weird. I just feel like in wrestling, you understand that eventually you're putting other people over, and that if you're willing to do that for others, it makes for a better environment, I would think, in the locker room and amongst your fellow wrestlers. So there you go. WrestleMania 4. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. And I do wonder if 16 matches is going to be the most any WrestleMania had before there was a 2-night WrestleMania. And even the 2-night WrestleManias now, I don't think there were 16 matches on this year's WrestleMania card. I don't think there were. I think if there were 16 matches, there would have been a lot of, really, that many? But this too, the battle royals and things of that nature is usually so that everybody gets a cut of that WrestleMania money, because that is a huge moneymaker for WWE. Although, or WWF in this case, the buy rate for this was lower. Obviously, not being at Pontiac Silverdome, the amount of money that they made off tickets was lower as well. This event was not well received, and so yeah, Mania would come back and become more of a thing, but there were definitely some early Manias that weren't fantastic. Not a lot to write home about. Let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you've not done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. I will talk to you again soon.